Hello gobs and welcome back to another episode of RPG Horror Stories. Yay. So as always, make sure you read the disclaimer at the beginning of the video. These stories may or may not be real. I'll leave that up for you to decide and me to read on. If these are fake, I think they make a good hypothetical situation. If you're in this situation, what would you do? What would I do? I think they make great advice to give stuff on. And I think that's all I have to say for now. Without further ado, let's get these stories on the roll. Our first story comes from Severe Formal 1132. Got killed on the first session of my first game ever. AITA. Am I the a-hole? Okay, so I'll begin by saying that everything is alright now. So this is more of a could I have done anything better kind of post. It all began when my boyfriend invited me to play GURPS with his friends. I had previously mentioned him that I was into tabletop games, but I never had actually played one. So when he said that he would talk to his DM about adding me to the recently started campaign, I was thrilled. GURPS. Good old GURPS. I believe it's a system that can fit a broad range of genres and stuff. You can do like cyberpunk, high fantasy, the works. But I always had a feeling that it was kind of bland, but I might be kind of wrong about that. Usually whenever I see anything about not making your own system, but about certain genres, I would go and look at, like, for example, something like that plays out more like an anime rather than like a video game. And one of the systems was people pointed to GURPS, because you can do anything in GURPS, apparently. I don't know, I haven't read on it, my friend has read on it a bit, but I don't know anything about it. I just never liked GURPS, personally. I know, I didn't read on it, so how can I not like it? But it's just a personal thing. It just sounds like it's going to be really empty and really simple. And I already like pre-complex rules already. Or not even complex rules, just some type of rules written in already without having to go through and homebrew your own. Regardless, let's continue. A few days passed and the DM got in touch with me to tell me about the campaign and start character creation. It was a post-nuclear war campaign heavily inspired in the Fallout saga. Also, he said that even though it was supposed to be in this world, the other players weren't necessarily human. So, for example, magic was allowed. I wanted something simpler, so I chose to be a 57-year-old apathic medic that survived the war because, as an essential worker, was given a place in a bunker for her own and her newborn son 16 years ago. So, 15 years after that, her son escapes the bunker, and her goal is to search the unknown world and find him. The DM loved her, and I loved her more. I literally made a fan art of her the day after we created her. A week or so before the group game, I played a solo mission with the DM so that he could introduce me to the mechanics of the game, and so that I would have an organic inclusion in the game that had already started. I had so much fun, I couldn't wait to play with everyone else. And so it happened. There were a few things that went wrong from the start. We were a total of 9 players. That's way too much. I said it before, but you don't need that many. 3 to 4 is good for me. Any more is just too much to bounce around between. I mean, for me, it's hard to bounce around between 4 players to make sure everyone's included. I couldn't imagine doing 9. And the timing to do everything, unless it's online, but even then, the timing to get 9 people together plus a DM sounds awful. Continuing on. We were a total of 9 players. Mage, cowboy, crazy robo-grandpa, cop, druid, rogue, mysterious cape guy, and scientist. So it got really messy when everyone started doing their own thing. Also, it was really hard to roleplay when everyone talked at the same time. See? This is what happens in these bigger groups, is that there's just a lot of clutter, a lot of commotion, because you have so many people who all want to do their thing, and in a big group they tend to start to lose individuality, and you have to more come up with a group goal rather than being able to focus on the group goal and your individual goals. Moving on. I'm done. At one point, the DM started describing a semi-violent protest outside the building we were in, and then told me that I could see my son leading it. Note, no one really knows much about the other characters, so almost everything about them is kept a secret between the player and the DM. I said that I wanted to reach him, but then the cowboy said, "No, she can't reach him in time. I grab my gun and shoot him." His logic was that, so he was an agitator, that the fastest thing to end a riot was to kill him. I was shocked, so I asked the DM if I could see him do that. He said yes, so I described how my character screamed with desperation, "Don't do it!" He did not care and shot his gun. The DM said that, as my son was so far, he missed, but even so, I was appalled. So in the heat of the moment, I shot Cowboy in the arm. My reason being that without an arm, he couldn't shoot his gun anymore. And as I was a medic, once the fuss calmed down, I could heal him. Well, I was wrong. He shot my character in the head with his other hand, and I died. Oh my, I want to say something, but we're going to keep reading. We're going to finish this off and then we'll get into it. I was so shocked and sad, I even went to the bathroom to cry a little. And the fact that the mage kept asking to cremate my body when it was implied that I would be revived wasn't helping at all. I eventually got revived by the power of the script, but I had mentally checked out of the game by that time. I want to clarify that I tried my best to keep it together and not make a scandal, because after all, I brought that on myself. A few days after I talked with the DM, and he said that he was sorry about how everything turned out, that I didn't do anything wrong, as my actions in the game were justified. Also, I talked to Cowboy, and he apologized and made sure that there weren't any feelings after the game. I know that starting a PvP in my first session ever wasn't a smart move, but I can't help but wonder, could I have done anything different? So, since the original of this was AITA, I'm going to... I don't know what I'm going to do, but here we go. You are not the a-hole. I think that's obvious. There's nothing really... I mean, shooting the arm off is a bit much, but not letting your character be able to intervene, seeing it happen. I mean, especially since the character, the son in the game, didn't actually die. I think shooting the arm might have been a bit too much, but so was the cowboy shooting the son in the first place was also too much. So it was kind of just a bad on both sides. Does that make you an a-hole? No, it doesn't make you an a-hole. I'd imagine if you did it just out of nowhere, out of the just to do it, would it be a-hole-ish? But obviously you had reasons and character to do it. And same thing with the cowboy. Cowboy was also kind of just asking for it. But everyone apologized and made up. So that's not really a-hole-ish behavior to me. So not the a-hole. But the DM letting all this happen. Again, the DM said they were sorry. And stuff happens when you're in the moment and you have 9 players. It's kind of hard to stop and think about like, maybe I shouldn't let them shoot each other. In situations like this, I would ask both players if it's okay. Like, hey, do you want the cowboy to possibly shoot your son? I don't know, that might be too controlling, but if it's something involving your backstory that you care about, you should be able to have somewhat of a say in what happens. Just letting them say they can just shoot the son, I would have a discussion, like maybe if you shoot my son or if you shoot that character, my character is going to shoot your character. And kind of have that kind of a discussion. Don't be super serious about it. Just like, hey, there will be consequences if you do this action, and my character will follow through on that action. But again, you have 9 players, and that's already such a big fuss or commotion already. I think that's the real horror, is having 9 players in your game. I mean, unless you can handle it, it doesn't really matter. So all in all, not the a-hole. Just talk about it more before you decide to fully do the action in the game. That's to both sides. Not just the poster, but also to the cowboy. And also to the DM to just keep an eye on everything. But everyone made up. They talked about it, said their sorries. Hopefully there's no hard feelings left. And you have a great game in the future. Our next story comes from Chris 17. Not even to the table yet? Somehow I have a horror story without ever reaching the table. If this doesn't belong here, I can delete it, mods can. I, F, had always wanted to play D&D. Growing up in a very Catholic, Midwestern small town that was almost impossible as a teen and young adult, I relate. I relate to this. Oh my gosh, this is so me. Except instead of Catholic, it's Baptist, but whatever. This is so me, just growing up in the middle of bum crap nowhere. Now I live in a cave, so I guess I upgraded. Let's move on. As someone who suffers from a variety of mental disorders and a case of almost unbearable social anxiety, it was even more of an impossibility. I didn't really have access to the internet either, meaning that was also out of the question. But either way, I had recently moved and I had been enthused to find a tabletop and board game store while exploring my new town. This was when COVID had been dying out, so I felt it okay exploring as I really didn't have an immune system. Steeling myself, I walked in. The store was small, cozy, and really clean. Well lit, organized really well, and there was even a table at the back where they held D&D sessions and Magic the Gathering. That's when I met someone who I'll call Matt, around my age and M. Matt was sitting at the back table and had been talking to the employee, but he saw me and said hi. Seemed really nice and genuinely excited to talk to me. He asked me if I ever played D&D. I'd been looking at the dice, I'd always wanted to own the set, or Magic the Gathering, and I was rather embarrassed to say no. But he actually asked me if I wanted to learn how to play Magic, and if I was also interested in D&D, and I said yes. He then took the time out of his day to walk me through all the Magic starter set, taught me how to play, and then played a game with me. I thought this was great. I'd actually been able to talk to someone face to face and interact and learn, and I really thought it was going to be someone who I could get to know and maybe learn more about the games I had always had an interest in. We exchanged our numbers and Discord usernames, and he said that he had been looking for some D&D players and was amicable to a new one, me, for a campaign at the shop. Gave me the decks he and I had played for free, and we went our separate ways. Oh no, exchanging personal information. Oh no, with someone... just kidding, I'm also extremely socially awkward as well, but I'm not afraid to give someone my, Facebook or whatever. I don't really care. They shoot me a message on Messenger. I've met a couple people at conventions and whatnot where I was playing Magic the Gathering, and they have all been really nice. Haven't talked to them in a while, but they were nice people, so... To each their own. If you're more socially outward and able to trust people, I don't know what the word would be. I guess trust people, but I am happy for you for being socially outward. Good job. Be proud. Moving on. I messaged him that night so he could have my phone number. My phone has been broken. I was getting it fixed. That's why I was in town. And he immediately called me, or attempted to. I live in a rural area, so I wasn't able to pick up the call without it dropping. I sent him a text explaining so, and he said, I prefer talking over a phone call. Let's try a few more times. He proceeded to call me about 7 more times. Each time he would send a text message asking me to pick up, and the call kept dropping, and it was frustrating. So I could kind of understand his messages and the amount of them. I eventually just told him I was going to bed, and I messaged him later. What do you mean you kind of get it? I get it. Some people prefer to talk over the phone, but if you say, hey, I'm in a bad area, I have no reception, and you're like, let's just keep trying to call them. It's not like the reception's going to get any better. It's not like a magical phone tower is suddenly going to go up and make the reception better. Just talk through messages. I can that would kind of be like a red flag to me, just someone who keeps calling despite saying, hey, I'm not able to pick up. Let's see where it goes. I'm pretty sure we're headed down that path of just a bit tediously obsessive. The next day, he sends me some information about the D&D game he and his buddies were starting. Apparently, it wasn't at the shop, but 30 minutes away from my home in his friend's house, which I didn't confirm or deny my attendance, but I explained I'd like to get to know him and his friends better before going to someone's house. He didn't really say anything, just brought up some local attractions and talked about taking me there. At this point, I kind of started to get uncomfortable because he mentioned a lot of places that were hiking spots or bluffs that you drive to, and it didn't seem like he was really listening to me, and I'm just not comfortable going somewhere like that with someone I don't know alone. In tried to call me a few more times that night, and I panicked and just didn't answer and decided I was going to go to bed. That's when things started to get even weirder. Oh no, this is going awful. Yeah, guys, when you meet someone, don't immediately jump to hiking alone or going someplace that isn't public alone. Don't. That's weird. That's weird, right? Always the first few times you meet a person, they could have just kept going back to the game shop, or I don't know, maybe a cafe or a diner or something. Not really a date, just to get to know that person better. I mean, that shop would have just been perfect to meet several more times before you go to someone's stranger's houses. What? Now, it's different if you know the person and then you bring a stranger. I mean, again, those people who just have the huevos to go to a stranger's house with someone they barely know. I mean, I apologize, guys, but it's different if you have a friend group and you've been to that person's house and then they bring another person into that friend group. I'm trying to say that's like my group. I had a friend and we hanged out at his house with our group, our D&D group. We've hanged out at his house, and then he had a friend who wanted to join the D&D group, and so even though we were strangers, they knew each other, and there's kind of just that trust, hey, I just want to introduce you to my other friend group. That's completely different. But this is someone she barely knew, trying to get her to another place that she doesn't know with a bunch of other people that she didn't know. And it's don't do that. Get them at the game shop where there's other people in the shop, especially shop owners and other patrons. Do that first before you decide to try to invite them over to a more private place. That's just weird, and it sounds like it's going to get weirder. As I was getting into bed, my Discord pinged. He messaged me there and then tried to start a call, and then another, and another. He sent me a server invite with a really odd name about 3 times in a row. I felt uncomfortable joining, so I made kind of a light joke about it, and he kind of just ignored it and refused to explain what it was. He spammed me a bunch of really odd messages, including the same server invite, and I just figured I'd deal with it the next day because I was starting to freak out and couldn't tell if I was overreacting or not. Because all social interactions are really hard for me, so I just shut my phone completely off and went to sleep. By the time I had woken up, he had sent multiple pictures of him out in bars in different locations and then asked me to a bluff that was around 40 minutes away from my home for some sightseeing. I was starting to feel really, really uncomfortable, so I politely declined, and then my Discord and phone was overwhelmed with a barrage of angry texts and messages ranging from cussing me out to "Who are you? Whose number in this?" which didn't make any sense, or "Send me a picture of you." It was just really weird, and I didn't even know what to do besides block him. Before I could, he sent me 2 unsolicited nude photos of his genitals and requested pictures. I freaked out and blocked him and his phone number. It really sucks because I really wanted to maybe try and mesh myself in the local tabletop/board game community, but I've been really scared to go back into the store because he seemed close with the workers and definitely hung out there a lot. All I wanted to do was learn how to play a game I've dreamed of playing and maybe make some new friends. To this day, I still haven't played D&D. Edit. Due to the general consensus of comments, I've decided to email the hobby store. Thank you all for incredibly kind words and support. Yeah, I was about to say that. I'm like, maybe you should talk to the game shop about it. Maybe even the police, maybe? Well, socially awkward, and not everybody likes the police. I'm going to just say that. Not everybody likes interacting with the police. I don't like interacting with the police. I'm glad you didn't accept to go to any of those places. I mean, it's common sense, but it's extremely smart. Good on you. And that's... I don't even know what to say. Again, guys, why do you have to be such creeps? But at least you caught it now before you got into the game and then stuff started to happen halfway. I could only imagine what would have happened if she would have gone out to that friend's. No, that's... Nope, snip the bud, talk to the people. Remember, you can always play online. It might not have exactly the same feeling, but you are still playing a tabletop game online. You can even play Magic online if you have a webcam. You don't even have to show your face, or you could, I don't know, wear a mask or something. just explain that you're not comfortable with showing your face online. My friends and I do that since one of them lives in a state far away, so we just play webcam magic. There's a bunch of virtual tabletops you can also play. And if you're ever feeling uncomfortable, you can just leave. That's the best part. There's no physical... What's the word I'm looking for? You're not inclined to physically be there. You can just block, leave, delete, whatever, you're done. But with those 2 stories, that will be all for today. Remember guys, stop being creeps. I forgot what happened in the other story, but stop being creeps. Check the Twitter for updates on what is happening this week or whatever. I might go on there and post some stuff, some tabletop stuff. But besides that, if you have a horror story of your own that you would like me to read on the channel, post them in the comments below or privately send me the email. I will keep you anonymous or whatever you prefer. You can send me an email and I may read them in a future video. So I hope you guys have a lot of a day and don't let the stalagmites fall on your head when you're exploring my cave. Seriously, I don't have money to pay insurance or funerals, guys. Come on, get out of here. Shoot, shoot.